Team 7, the Konohamaru generation. The newest iteration of Team 7 was supposed to be the next great generation of shinobi. They were meant to carry on the legacy of their legendary predecessors, inheriting the strength, wisdom, and will of fire that defined Konoha's greatest warriors. Yet, reality told a different story. This team was formed in an era of peace, where war no longer shaped shinobi, and the challenges they faced were different from those of the past. The threats of their time were no less dangerous, but they had not yet experienced the trials that had forged the previous generations. Their potential was undeniable, but potential alone was never enough to make legends. At the center of this team stood Boruto Uzumaki, the son of Naruto Uzumaki, the greatest Hokage in history. From the moment he was born, expectations weighed heavily on his shoulders. He was supposed to be a prodigy, a warrior destined for greatness. But Boruto had no interest in being defined by his father's name. To him, being the son of a hero meant nothing. He wanted to be acknowledged for his own strength, not as the heir to Naruto's legacy. And in many ways, he succeeded. Boruto was an exceptional shinobi, far more skilled than Naruto had been at his age. His mastery of the Shadow Clone Jutsu, his impressive taijutsu, and his understanding of advanced techniques like the Rasengan made him stand out. Yet, the true source of his power was something he never asked for: karma. This mysterious mark, left behind by Momoshiki Otsutsuki, granted him abilities beyond comprehension. With it, he could absorb ninjutsu, enhance his physical capabilities, and even rival some of the strongest shinobi. But karma was not a gift. It was a curse, a power he could not control, a force that could one day consume him completely. Somehow, karma is similar to Orochimaru's cursed seal of heaven, but it's on a completely different level, godlike level. He had already proven his strength by playing a key role in defeating Momoshiki, but the victory was not truly his. The power that had saved him did not belong to him. Until he could master karma and claim his own identity as a shinobi, Boruto would remain caught between expectation and reality. Besides the heart, we have the mind. Yeah, Sarada. Quite special that she has every typical stuff of her previous generation: Uchiha's dojutsu, chakra, and physical power, will to become Hokage. Yet for all her ambition, she was still far from the level of her father. Her Sharingan gave her enhanced perception and reaction speed, and she had even managed to learn the Chidori, a technique that required extreme precision and speed. But compared to Sasuke, she was still a fledgling. Her Sharingan had not yet evolved beyond its initial stages, and her combat experience was limited. She had the qualities of a leader, the potential of a warrior, and the resolve of a true shinobi, but she lacked a defining victory. She had never faced an opponent who pushed her beyond her limits, never stood on the battlefield as the one who carried the weight of a village's future. She wanted to be Hokage, but wanting was not enough. Boruto series still coming out, and this little girl still has pretty much stuff to do. And we have to wait until she proved herself in the future. Then there was Mitsuki, the enigma of the group. He was not born like the others. He was created. Designed by Orochimaru to be the perfect shinobi, he possessed abilities that far surpassed those of a normal genin. His flexibility, his speed, and his ability to use Sage Mode made him a force to be reckoned with. But Mitsuki's greatest strength was also his greatest flaw. He was incomplete. His power was unstable, and using Sage Mode put an immense strain on his body. Unlike Naruto, who had the physical endurance to withstand the toll of natural energy, Mitsuki had limits. If he pushed himself too far, he could break. If he used his full power without restraint, he could lose himself entirely. He had the potential to be one of the strongest shinobi of his time, but potential without control meant nothing. If he ever wanted to stand at the top, he needed to master himself first. And finally, Konohamaru Sarutobi, the leader of this generation's Team 7, the one been raised in the shadow of legends, mentored by Naruto himself, and trained by his grandfather, Hiruzen Sarutobi. He had once been a child who idolized the Hokage, dreaming of one day claiming the title for himself. But dreams and reality were two different things. As a jonin, Konohamaru was strong, but not really exceptional. He was skilled in the Rasengan, proficient in combat, and knowledgeable in ninjutsu, but he had never had a defining moment. Unlike Kakashi, whose leadership shaped legends, or Minato, who was a warrior feared across nations, Konohamaru lacked presence. He had not guided his team through war, had not led them to victory against impossible odds, and had not instilled in them the sense of unity that past teams had. He was competent, but it's just not enough. A leader did not just command a team. A leader inspired them, pushed them beyond their limits, and forged them into something greater. Konohamaru had not yet done that. Until he did, he would remain a leader in name only. Looking at this team, yeah, very potential. Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki all had the makings of future legends. But talent alone did not create legends. Experience, hardship, and battles that pushed them to their absolute limits were what defined greatness. And this team had yet to face that moment. They had yet to be tested in the way that previous generations had been. Without war, without true adversity, they had not been forced to evolve. Their skills were sharp, but their souls were untested. They were strong, but they had never stood at the edge of death and found the strength to survive. Until they did, they would remain the weakest iteration of Team 7. Perhaps one day they would rise to meet the expectations set before them. Perhaps they would become the legends they were meant to be, but for now, they were not the heirs to a great legacy. They were simply the team that had yet to prove themselves. If you've made this far, I want to thank you all for helping us reach 3,900 subscribers last month. We really appreciate your support of our channel. Our next goal is 10,000, and while we know there's always room for improvement, your feedback means a lot to us. We still need your support, so if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it. Thank you for enjoying our video. Now, prepare your chakra and follow us. Team 7, the Kakashi generation. There has never been a Team 7 like this one. There may never be another. From their first mission together, they were an unbalanced, dysfunctional trio. One dropout, one genius, and one girl caught between them. They bickered, struggled, and failed. But somehow, despite the odds, they endured. They grew stronger, not just as individuals, but as a team. Their journey was shattered by betrayal, divided by ideology, and tested in the fires of war. But in the end, they came back together and became warriors who stood against gods. Naruto Uzumaki, the loud, foolish boy no one believed in, became the savior of the ninja world. There was a time when he was nothing, a nuisance, an orphan with no talent and no future. He was ridiculed, excluded, left to struggle alone. But Naruto never stopped fighting. He trained harder, pushed further, and refused to give up. Every time the world knocked him down, he got back up stronger. He mastered Sage Mode, fought pain, and brought hope back to Konoha. He controlled the Nine Tails, stood against the strongest warriors in history, and faced down Kaguya, the Chakra Mami. And in the end, he became the 7th Hokage, the very thing he had always dreamed of. But even after reaching the peak of power, there was still a cost. Baryon Mode, his ultimate transformation, allowed him to defeat Ishiki, one of the greatest threats in history. He lost Kurama. The fox that had been both his burden and his strength was gone. Naruto had achieved everything, but he had also lost more than most could ever understand. He was not just a hero, he was a legend. Sasuke Uchiha walked a different path. If Naruto was the light, Sasuke was the shadow. He had always been a genius, a prodigy among prodigies. But talent alone did not make him strong. Hatred did. His clan was slaughtered. His brother's face haunted his every thought, and revenge became his only purpose. He abandoned everything, leaving behind his village, his friends, and his own future to seek power. He trained under Orochimaru, awakened the Mangekyou Sharingan, and killed the brother he had spent his life hating, only to learn that everything he believed was a lie. Itachi had never been his enemy. He had sacrificed everything to protect him. With that truth came a new purpose, destroying the system that had forced his brother to suffer. He declared himself an enemy of Konoha, fought against the Five Cage, and stood alongside Madara in the Fourth Great Ninja War. Yet, despite everything, Naruto never gave up on him. Their final battle at the Valley of the End was their most brutal, a clash that pushed both beyond their limits. In the end, Sasuke lost, not just the fight, but the war within himself. He saw Naruto's resolve and finally understood what it meant. He had spent his life searching for a reason to fight. He found it, not in vengeance, but in the bond he had tried so hard to break. He lost an arm, but he gained something greater. He was no longer a rogue shinobi. He was Konoha's shadow, the one who would protect it from the darkness. Sakura Haruno was never supposed to be great. She had no bloodline, no special abilities, no monstrous chakra reserves. She was just an ordinary girl, thrown into a team with two monsters. At first, she was weak, always standing behind Naruto and Sasuke, unable to keep up. But she refused to stay that way. Under Tsunade's guidance, she became a warrior in her own right. She learned medical ninjutsu, honed her strength to monstrous levels, and awakened the strength of 100 seal, a technique that made her virtually unkillable in battle. She fought on the front lines, facing enemies far stronger than herself, yet she never backed down. In the final battle against Kaguya, she did the impossible, landing a devastating blow on a literal goddess. It was a moment that proved something many had refused to believe. Sakura was not just a support character, she was a fighter, and without her, Naruto and Sasuke would have died long before they ever got the chance to change the world. And above them all stood Kakashi Hatake, the man who shaped them into what they became. He was not the strongest of the team, not in terms of raw power, but he was their leader, their guide, the one who held them together even when they were falling apart. He had already lived through his own tragedies. He had lost his father, his best friend, and the only family he had left. He had spent years as a soldier, following orders, never allowing himself to get too close to anyone. But with Team 7, things were different. He watched them grow, trained them, and, in the end, fought alongside them in the greatest war the ninja world had ever seen. When the time came, he awakened the double Mangekyou Sharingan, becoming one of the most powerful shinobi in history, even if only for a brief moment. But his true strength was never in his jutsu. It was in his wisdom. He saw through deception, understood what others missed, and carried the lessons of his past into the future. When it was all over, he became the 6th Hokage, not because he wanted power, but because the village needed someone who could rebuild it. And he did. If there was any team that could stand against gods and win, it was them. If there was any team that could be called the strongest in history, it was them. No debate, no question. Team 7, under Kakashi, was the greatest team the ninja world had ever seen. No one will ever take that title from them. Team 7, the Minato generation. There was a time when this Team 7 could have been unstoppable. They had a leader who was among the greatest shinobi to ever live. They had members with limitless potential. They had everything they needed to become legends. But fate? Yeah, always fate. Unlike the other generations of Team 7, this one never had the chance to reach its peak. Their journey ended before it could truly begin, shattered by tragedy on the battlefield of Canopy Bridge. What should have been a stepping stone to greatness became the moment that tore them apart forever. Minato Namikaze was the perfect shinobi. His speed was unmatched, his intellect beyond comparison, and his combat ability so overwhelming that entire nations feared his presence. He was known as the Yellow Flash of Konoha, a warrior so deadly that enemy forces were ordered to flee on sight. His mastery of the Flying Thunder God technique made him virtually untouchable, and his creation of the Rasengan proved his ingenuity as a ninja. But despite all his strength, there was one thing he could not do. He could not save his students. As their sensei, Minato was supposed to protect them, to guide them into becoming the next generation of Konoha's defenders. Instead, he was pulled away by his duties as a Jonin and future Hokage, leaving them to fight without him when it mattered most. By the time he returned, the damage was already done. Obito was gone, crushed beneath the weight of a collapsing battlefield. Kakashi had lost his friend and gained a new burden, the Sharingan that Obito left behind. Rin was still alive, but not for long. Minato could do nothing but watch as the team he was supposed to lead fell apart before his eyes. Obito Uchiha was never the strongest, never the most talented. In a team with a genius like Kakashi, he often found himself overshadowed, but what he lacked in natural ability, he made up for in determination. He had a dream, to be Hokage, to be acknowledged, to be someone who could protect his comrades. He fought with all his heart, pushing himself to prove that he belonged. And for a moment, he did. He awakened his Sharingan, saved Kakashi's life, and showed the world that he was more than just a failure. But then, in an instant, it was all taken away. Buried under the rubble of Konoha Bridge, left to die while his team escaped. The boy who wanted to be Hokage was presumed dead. But Obito did not die. He was found, saved, and reshaped into something entirely different. Madara Uchiha took him in, twisted his grief, and turned him into a monster. The boy who had once fought for his friends became the man who sought to destroy everything. He abandoned his name, took up the mask of Toby, and orchestrated the greatest war the world had ever seen. The boy who could have been a hero became the greatest villain of his time. Kakashi Hatake was the prodigy, the perfect shinobi in the making. He was cold, disciplined, and followed the rules without question. But everything changed on that battlefield. He lost his best friend, gained his Sharingan, and with it, a burden that would shape the rest of his life. Obito's last words haunted him. Those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their friends are worse than scum. From that moment, he had always been a genius, but now he carried something heavier, guilt. He lived in the shadow of his past, unable to move forward. And then, the final blow came. Rin, the last piece of his team, the last connection he had to what they once were, was taken from him. She had been made into the Jinchuriki of the Three Tails, forced into a fate she never wanted. The bright future he could have had with his team was gone. Rin Nohara was not the strongest member of the team, but its heart. She was the one who kept them together, the one who cared about them all equally. Without her, they were nothing but weapons, shinobi trained to fight without emotion. She was their connection to their humanity. But even that was not enough to save her. She became the target of an enemy plan, turned into a ticking time bomb meant to destroy Konoha. What made this team so tragic was not just their potential, but how close they came to being great before everything fell apart. Minato could have led them to greatness. Obito could have become a hero. Kakashi could have been the leader his team needed. Rin could have lived. But none of that happened. They never had the chance to grow together, to reach their full power, to become the legends they should have been. Instead, they became a cautionary tale, a team that could have changed the world, but instead helped to nearly destroy it. Their strengths were undeniable. Minato was one of the most powerful Hokage in history. Obito, had he stayed on the right path, could have been one of the greatest Uchiha of all time. Kakashi was a genius who became legendary despite his trauma, but their weaknesses overshadowed everything. They never truly became a team. They were torn apart before they could even begin their true journey. In another world, in another timeline, this Team 7 could have been the greatest. But in this one, they were only a reminder of what could have been. Thank you for enjoying our video. See ya!